Part 19. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 181. In the solemn silver-gray palace, Huaye sat on his dark gold-carved throne, stroking his fingers, looking out of the corner of his eyes at the two angels Sumari and Suri below. I won't go into detail about Binghua. She is indeed a little bit more powerful. But is that bitch Liang Bing so difficult to deal with? Has she made you look like this? As Huaye said this, he stopped stroking his fingers and looked directly at Sumari, who looked a little embarrassed. And if you hadn't been by my side all this time and knew that you had such thoughts about He 11, I would have suspected that you fell in love with that bitch Liang Bing, so you held back during the battle. Facing Huaye's scolding, Sumari, who had a slender figure, blonde hair hanging down her head, and a neutral and feminine face, was a little afraid to look at Huaye. Because it was too embarrassing for the male angel, Sumari was the commander responsible for attacking Liang Bing's right-wing defense line. Because she had a huge advantage, Sumari went on stage in person, preparing to capture Liang Bing alive and offer it to Huaye. The result was extremely embarrassing. Sumari found that she could not beat Liang Bing. His main attack method, the micro-wormhole transport technology, was defeated by Liang Bing in the first fight. Sumari, whose melee skills were only good, was almost captured alive by Liang Bing's guardian angels. In the end, she managed to escape with the help of her high-level male angels. Otherwise, Sumari would be happily in the prison behind the female angels now. I'm going to jail. Wang, it's not me who is merciless. It's Liang Bing who is too restrained towards me. It would be great if I can display 1/10 of my abilities in front of her. Seeing that Huaye hadn't looked away, Sumari explained a little aggrievedly. Go, don't explain, and step aside for me. Now I am upset when I see you. Huaye waved his hand impatiently, and Sumari quickly stepped aside knowingly, leaving Suri standing alone below. The angel I heard back said that you were blocked by the female angel's Skyblade battleship group, and you had a fight with that stinky bitch Binghua. How about that bitch? Is that bitch powerful? Huaye's tone was unusually uneasy, like a prisoner waiting for the judge's decision. King, the Heavenly Sword King is just as you said. She has a very strong ability in frontal combat. Even though I am much stronger than her, I still feel that it is very difficult to fight with her. And that's not all. The Heavenly Sword King's fighting awareness is very high. In addition, she has many weapons, which is quite different from our fighting method. If we fight to the death, I am not completely sure of victory. Suri didn't exaggerate at all, but told his true thoughts. In the previous battle with Binghua, it seemed that he had the upper hand. But in reality, every attack of Suri Hua was neutralized by Binghua. On the contrary, Binghua's endless methods overwhelmed Suri. In the end, he even used Binghua's flame bombing to escape from the battlefield. Huaye also felt that it was a bit difficult to handle. There used to be no powerful female angels, but now 3 suddenly appeared. Huaye felt a little headache. Several of his generals had fallen in the battle with the foreign king's coalition forces. As a result, Huaye now felt that the high-end combat power of his subordinates was a bit insufficient. Huaye was summing up after the war, and Binghua was no exception. Let me tell you, I met a very funny male angel, who dangled in front of me with his rudimentary micro-wormhole transporting skills, and said that he would spare our lives if we surrendered. As a result, after I used the same method to block his movement of the micro-wormhole, my men almost captured him alive. He seemed to be called Sumari. Liang Bing spoke in the communication and told Binghua and other angels about the high-end combat power of the Hui group, but the process was full of Liang Bing's style. Binghua also talked about Suri's combat characteristics, mainly to give Liang Bing a heads up. Because Liang Bing relies too much on space technology. If he encountered someone like Suri, who was good at frontal breakthroughs, he would undoubtedly be beaten, and his life might even be in danger. After final discussion, Binghua and Kesha hit it off and decided to take the initiative to attack Hui group. The defense was too passive after all. Neither Binghua nor Kesha were the kind of angels who liked to be beaten. They preferred to be thugs. So the Nuhe galaxy, which had just calmed down, was stirred up again by the collision of the male and female angel groups. However, this time the main attacking party became the female angels, and the main force was the Sky Sword Legion under Kesha. As for Binghua's Sky Sword Legion, they were raiding the formation on the side. Although Kesha's Heavenly Blade Legion will be the main attacker, Binghua, Liangbing, and their left and right wing guards will all participate in the attack. After all, in terms of high-end combat effectiveness alone, none of the four major legions can compete with Hui group. On the day of the attack, the Heavenly Blade Legion soldiers gathered in the center, while the Heavenly Sword Legion and the Apocalypse Legion marched to the side, marching toward the star domain where the Hui group was located. Kesha is sitting on a very special flying throne, which looks like a golden cross, very noble and luxurious, and looks extremely eye-catching. Liangbing, Binghua, and He 11 all incited these wings to follow Kesha's flying throne, and in front of them were their respective left and right wing guards to form a guard team. Binghua, why haven't I seen your right wing guard appear? During the flight, Liangbing couldn't help but break the solemn silence and asked curiously. In this decisive battle with the Huaye group, except for Binghua, all the left and right wing guards of their angel queen were present. Only Binghua's right wing guard was not present. She was doing a very important job, so I didn't bring her here. By the way, Liangbing, can you send me a study on your calculation formula that can increase the speed of the micro-wormhole algorithm? Of course there is no problem with this, but Binghua's combat method is a bit incompatible with my micro-wormhole second-generation combat method. My formula may not meet your expectations. Liangbing said it tactfully, but Binghua still understood the meaning of his words. Binghua's fighting method is no secret among the angels. The exaggerated barrage of weapons is no different from a nightmare-level opponent to ordinary angels. But for Liangbing, this kind of tactics is mindless and a waste of computing power. What she is good at is controlling a weapon to carry out unexpected attacks. You don't have to worry about Liangbing at all. Have you forgotten what Binghua is good at? Applying any technique in battle. There are no useless techniques in her hands, only unknown and ununderstood techniques. He 11 interrupted at this time, and then said to Binghua with a slight smile. Binghua, if you want to solve the problem of micro-wormhole calculation speed, why don't you come to my sister? When you get back, I will make you an auxiliary computing equipment like Kesha's, so that you can use it very comfortably. Hearing this, Binghua subconsciously looked at the cross throne under Kesha, feeling that sitting on the throne and fighting was not his style at all. Although it is a good experience to listen to you chatting, I still have to interrupt you. We are extremely close to the star field where the Hui group is located, so we should all become serious and prepare for battle. Kesha, who had been silently listening to the chat between Binghua and other angels, suddenly spoke up, which also meant that the war was about to begin. I just temporarily degenerated into a first shift beast. Sooner or later, I will evolve into a second shift beast again. Laugh, equals .. equals Super Seminary Angel Binghua Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 182. The Golden and White Sky Blade Battle Group, like a sword of judgment hanging upside down in the sky, passed through the cloud-like interstellar dust in the universe, forming a metal curtain that seemed to cover a layer of holy light and pressed towards Hua, who had already arranged a defensive formation. Ye Group's army. At the moment when the forward troops of the two sides collided, it seemed as if the two were rotating counterclockwise, and the giant gears across the starry sky collided with each other, sputtering out a large number of brilliant sparks. There is no plot, only the collision of absolute strength. The dense male and female angels rush towards each other surrounded by celestial battleships, truly interpreting the term Sea of Angels. Because of the development of science and technology, people have changed from swords and guns to guns and cannons, and the mode of war has also changed from near to far. The development of science and technology has also changed the model of interstellar warfare, when the technology and detection technology of using physical light energy reach an extreme. Long-range strikes beyond visual range are often detected before they are launched, so this method of warfare can no longer influence the outcome of the war, and the war returns to a face-to-face contest. Today's angel civilization is in this situation. Although Tianren's ultra-long-range firepower is not weak, Tiangong's flagship has the ability to jump in space and high-strength shields. All this makes it difficult to realize the idea of destroying a celestial battleship through long-range strikes. Only close-range bombing, without giving the celestial battleship a chance to calculate its avoidance route in advance, can severely damage the Tiangong flagship, which is also a celestial battleship. Soon after the war started, it entered a fierce state. In the competition between large celestial warships, the female angel side had the advantage. However, facing the Hui group's huddled and defensive fleet group, the advantage it occupies is very limited. At most, it can only leave a few more scorch marks on the external armor of the opponent's celestial warship. To decide the outcome, the actions of ordinary angels are still needed. The energy-breaking daggers equipped by the female angels work very well, allowing them to break through the shield of the Tiangong flagship without wasting much effort, and then attack inside the enemy ship. But after the male angel suffered some initial losses, he immediately reacted and stationed a large number of troops inside the battleship. Your Excellency, King of Heavenly Sword, there is a high-level male angel appearing on your left. He has killed more than 20 of our soldiers. Please go to support as soon as possible. The female angel with a very gentle tone and a hint of respect spoke in the communication channel. After hearing this, Binghua didn't say anything, but just encouraged the wings behind her to hold the king's sword and immediately moved to the left. After arriving at the location mentioned by the female angel in the communication, Binghua saw at a glance that a male angel had just withdrawn the cross sword from the chest of a female angel. Binghua's hand holding the hilt of the sword tightened, and the next moment he transformed into lightning, like a flash of blue thunder. In the flashing dazzling blue light, it passed over the position of the high-ranking male angel. Before this high-ranking male angel could see clearly who was coming, only half of the cross sword was left in his hand. The next moment, the thunderbolt that struck before suddenly turned back. The male angel only felt a pain in his chest, and a silver luxurious épée penetrated his heart, and a beautiful black-haired angel appeared in front of him. Binghua held Wang Jian's wrist and turned it hard, pulling it horizontally, almost cutting the male angel in front of him in half from his chest. Before the male angel could leave his last words, Binghua swung the king's sword in his hand again, and the silver sword light passed over his neck, and a head flew up and started spinning in the universe to nowhere. Facing warriors of the same level, Binghua's killing was as simple as chopping melons and vegetables. The female angel who was responsible for conveying battlefield news to Binghua at the rear opened her mouth slightly and was so surprised that she could not speak. She felt that this was a bit too exaggerated. This was a third-generation high-level male angel. If converted to her own side, she would be at least a legion-level warrior. And Binghua's time from the time she reported the enemy's location to the time she arrived to kill him was less than 10 seconds. Are there any more? If there are any high-ranking male angels nearby, tell me immediately. Seeing that there was no sound coming from the communication channel for a long time, Binghua frowned slightly with a pair of sword-like eyebrows and directly asked in the communication channel. Sorry, Your Excellency, King of Heavenly Sword, all the high-level male angels detected near you have been eliminated, but there are multiple combat teams 2,356 meters away from you that have sent out support requests. I understand, I'll be there right away. Hearing this, Binghua no longer held back her calculation power, and turned into an extremely conspicuous stream of light that swept forward. Binghua is now like a hunter, wandering around the battlefield, specifically catching and killing the high-ranking men under Hua. This is the method that Kesha thinks can best bring out Binghua's combat power, because Binghua's one-on-one ability can be said to be the best among the 4 angel queens today. Even Kesha, who has silver wings and sits on the throne to assist calculations, cannot guarantee that she can defeat Binghua in a one-on-one duel. Therefore, Binghua was a sharp butcher knife specially used to cut off Hua's fingers. As for the command, there was naturally a more suitable angel to take over. After the Sky Blade Legion fought with Hua's army, the Sky Sword and Apocalypse Legions responsible for the plundering formation also launched attacks on the flanks of Hua's army. Even He 11's Tianji Legion combat troops joined the battlefield. In Kesha's words, "If you don't fight, don't fight. If you fight, use all your strength." Binghua flapped his wings and flew, ignoring the fighting male and female angels along the way, and went straight to the place where he was applying for help. Soon a Tiangong flagship appeared in Binghua's field of vision. The energy shield around its hull was riddled with holes, and countless flying figures were fighting fiercely inside. A large number of male and female angels are mixed together, which makes the battlefield extremely chaotic. They can be easily hit by attacks from all directions. Even the elite second-generation angels will easily fall in this battlefield. Please pay attention to nearby combat teams. There are 2 scum chasing me behind me. Please support me. I've seen you, just keep going and let our team handle the tail behind you. A female angel quickly walked through the chaotic battlefield, followed closely by 2 male angels holding spears and wearing helmets. Just as the 2 sides were passing through an airspace one after another, 3 female angels suddenly rushed down from diagonally above, and the weapons in their hands instantly pierced the 2 male angels who were unable to dodge. But before the 3 female angels could retrieve their weapons from the body of the dead male angel, a sneak attack came from behind. 2 of the 3 female angels on the scene were stabbed through the abdomen by war spears from behind, and 1 reacted in time to avoid the sneak attack. The 2 female angels who were penetrated through the abdomen lost all their strength, and the cherry lips exposed under the visor were slightly opened, but apart from making a ho sound, there was no other sound. What Binghua saw when she arrived at the scene was this scene. She was unable to save the 2 female angels in time, which made her extremely angry. She immediately raised her finger with the king's sword in her hand, and the wormhole behind her opened, and the heavenly sword weapon was stored in the arsenal. The weapon shoots out. In an instant, more than 20 long swords made terrifying sounds of piercing the air and came to the male angels. Just hearing a few popping sounds of flesh penetration, the male angels immediately inserted several long swords into their bodies, entered a state of near death and fell downwards. His Excellency, the King of Heavenly Sword, is here to support us. Sisters, fight hard to kill the enemy. Victory is right in front of us. When the female angels fighting around them saw this scene, their morale was greatly boosted on the spot. Although they were Kesha's subordinates, the power of the Sky Sword King had already spread among the female angels. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 183. Compared with the high morale of the female angels, the male angels were different. It was okay if no angel said it. They just thought that the female angel who suddenly came to the battlefield was very beautiful, and her temperament was extremely dangerous. But it was different when some male angels recognized Binghua. Some were filled with fear, while others were filled with greed and surprise. What is frightening is the legend that Binghua cut off Hua's arm, and the bloody battles and the title of God of Death that were reported during the previous war with Herglass. Greedy was pleasantly surprised that Binghua appeared alone on this battlefield without any escorting angels. They had the opportunity to kill this female angel that King Hua hated so much, and made an unparalleled contribution to the sky. But what happened in the next moment clearly proved that the above were all the imagination of the following male angels. Binghua told them with cruel reality that the title of the god of death was not a false name. A delicate silver feather the size of a feather suddenly appeared out of thin air from the wormhole and scattered in the direction where the male angels were concentrated. It was like the harshest raindrops hitting the bodies of the male angels, but the raindrops might have been a little sharper, and in an instant, more than a dozen male angels who didn't react hastily were shot into sieves. This scene scared the surrounding male angels to death, and they quickly dispersed and shouted at the same time. "Spread out! Don't get together!" After about a few minutes, Binghua nailed the last male angel here to the ground with a sword. He watched him completely lose his breath before pulling out the king's sword. There were no male angels around, only female angels supporting each other or their armors stained with blood. "Your Excellency, King of Heavenly Sword, the male angels who resisted in the outer area have been successfully eliminated. We will attack the inner area next. We hope to get your help." A female angel who looked very prestigious stood up and requested. Binghua nodded and agreed. Now that there are no new instructions coming from the communication channel, it is appropriate to stay here for the time being to expand our own advantage. You guys will attack from the front, and I'll go around to the rear from the other side to create chaos. Since he decided to stay, Binghua naturally became the highest commander here for the time being. After roughly arranging the tactics, Binghua stopped paying attention to other matters. The female angel has a very stable command system. Since there is an angel who can hold the position of captain, it means that she is naturally capable. Binghua does not need to worry about things like how to direct the attack. Compared to attacking together with other angels, Binghua prefers to break through alone, because many of her attacks often have a large range, and it is easy to accidentally injure allies. With a few swings of the sword, the 7-killing King sword, which was mainly made of Ansuyan, easily opened a hole in the floor, and Binghua jumped directly. Seeing that the Heavenly Sword King struck first, the female angel commander outside waved her arm and shouted an order. "Sisters, did you hear the conversation just now? Come with me to attack the inner area, attract the attention of those scum, and cover the actions of the Sky Sword King." Boom! A huge explosion sounded, and under the heat wave, the air in the corridor where Binghua was located was distorted. The bulkhead made of an unknown alloy also experienced severe deformation, and even melted into a red fluid in some places. At the same time, the bodies of male angels were lying around Binghua, some of which were directly burned to coke by the high temperature. Binghua stepped forward with 3 daggers floating on each side. He raised his lower legs and skillfully crossed the charred corpses along the way. This was already the third wave of male angel guard troops rushing towards him, but he still could not escape the fate of destruction. In less than half a minute, Binghua detected a large number of male angels rushing towards him. Binghua didn't even move his hands, but one of the daggers floating on the left and right glowed with a faint scorching light. Firebombing. With a thought, Binghua gave the order, and the flame bombardment that had been brewing used the dagger as the carrier, shot out and penetrated the bulkhead, exploding among the male angels who came to support on the other side. There was an explosion, and along with the sound of metal creaking and twisting, red high-temperature energy spread out. In just an instant, the fourth wave of male angel combat teams that came to block Binghua's advance was nearly wiped out. Only 2 or 3 male angels who were far away from the center of the flame bombing survived. But even so, they were seriously injured after enduring the mixed impact of dark energy and stellar energy, and lost most of their combat effectiveness. Report, Captain, the 356th Combat Unit was bombed by unknown energy, and there are still 3 soldiers surviving. Listening to the reports from his subordinates, the captain who was in the command room of the Tiangong flagship looked extremely ugly and almost had his teeth broken. In less than 5 minutes, the garrison of the Tiangong flagship had already wiped out more than 500 angels, and what made him even more unacceptable was that this was only done by a female angel. Oh. Are you planning to capture the thief first? But let me tell you first, this is not a good idea. Kesha sat on a golden throne that looked like a cross, looking at the rising sun in front of her and the group of high-ranking male angels behind her, with an unusually dull expression. Kesha, as long as you die, the female angel's command system will suffer a major blow, and then you will be defeated by King Hua. Suri said an unusually cruel word, and at the same time he raised his giant sword and swung it, and a giant orange sword energy of several meters flew out. Kesha didn't see any movement. A 2-meter-wide silver wing suddenly emerged from the air, and then fell straight down to block the sword energy flying towards Kesha. These ordinary methods alone cannot kill me, otherwise you will be at risk of falling. Kesha said as she raised the palm of her hand that was placed on the armrest of the throne, and pointed forward with 2 fingers together. A dozen half-meter-long silver blades suddenly appeared in the air, and then shot away towards the location where Suri and other male angels were gathering. But it was obvious that such a direct attack was a ghost because it was impossible to avoid it. In an instant, all the high-ranking male angels dispersed. But suddenly Liang Bing, who had been floating in the air to Kesha's left, smiled and stretched out his hand in the direction of the male angel who was spreading away. A high-level male angel suddenly became unable to move, and the surrounding space imprisoned him in mid-air as if it had turned into substance. After struggling hard, the high-level male angel successfully broke free from the confinement of the surrounding space in the next second, but Liang Bing did not show an annoyed look because his sister would make up for her. Kesha lived up to Liang Bing's expectations and directly adjusted the flying angle of the silver blade to easily get this good start. Suri's expression condensed when he saw this. The attack of the silver blade with a straightforward path was not difficult to dodge, but Liang Bing's sudden attack made Suri feel a great crisis. No angel knows the power of the dark silver weapon better than Suri holding it. Now all the defense methods of the angel civilization are no different from paper on it. If you are accidentally trapped by the cold ice, even for less than a second, it may be the difference between life and death. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 184. There was a crisp clang sound, and a silver dagger was knocked out by the Wang sword raised in Binghua's hand. Looking at the slender male angel who appeared at the end of the corridor, with light makeup on his face and a neutral appearance, wearing a silver chainmail but exuding an evil aura, Binghua showed a trace of disgust on his face. Sumari. Sumari shook her fingers slightly, with a smile on her face that made Binghua very uncomfortable, and 2 silver daggers kept spinning around him. Oh, isn't this Binghua? What a coincidence, I can meet you here. As Sumari said this, her eyes were still looking at Binghua and she licked her lips a few times. Even if Binghua didn't say anything, she knew that what he was thinking was definitely not a good thing. Just in time, I'm tired of killing those ordinary male angels. You showed up at the right time. Binghua's expression did not change, he was still as cold as frost. It would be better to say that Binghua always looked like this except when he was facing the female angel. The daggers that had been floating on both sides of Binghua now reattached themselves to the main sword in Binghua's hand, returning to the normal state of the 7 kills king sword. And pieces of silver feathers emerged from the micro wormholes behind them, gradually filling the space behind Binghua, like a sharp sword aimed at Sumari. Seeing this, Sumari was not afraid. Although he had just been educated by Liang Bing not long ago, it did not mean that he would belittle himself and think that he was not Binghua's opponent. I promise I'll give you a completely different feeling. With 2 malicious laughs, Sumari narrowed her slender eyes, raised her fingers, and the 2 daggers surrounding her suddenly shot out, drawing an elusive trajectory in the air towards Binghua. But the next moment something happened that made Sumari a little dumbfounded. Binghua bent forward and held the Wang sword with both hands, dragging it to his side, and stepped forward fiercely. On the way, Binghua turned aside and dodged the two silver daggers whose trajectories were difficult to distinguish, as if he had predicted it in advance. Sumari's expression changed, and she quickly jumped back without caring about maintaining her demeanor. At the same time, she flipped her palms over, and three daggers were caught between her fingers and swung forward, like three silver rays penetrating the space. Rub! A silver arc flashed on the ground where Sumari was standing, and a horizontal cut appeared, which was several meters long. Binghua raised her head and saw the silver light in front of her eyebrows, as if it was about to pierce her eyebrows at the next moment. Boom! Like thunderbolts exploding out of thin air, blue thunder clings to the surrounding walls and ground like giant pythons. The ice flower located at the center of the thunderous explosion looked like a god bathing in the thunder. Its whole body was illuminated by lightning and reflected blue-white light, looking extremely holy and majestic. As for the three silver rays that hit Binghua before, they were already blown away by the thunder and lightning that appeared, and they didn't know where they landed. And Sumari, who had jumped more than 20 meters away in one step, looked at the scene and the corners of her eyes twitched. Suri never said that Binghua's ability to control thunder has reached this level. Didn't he say that Binghua is only as powerful as the splitting king's sword in his hand? Then where does this posture come from? Binghua raised his sword again and placed his fingers on the sword. The red light that symbolized the brewing flame bombardment began to appear on the sword, and at the same time, a faint voice came from Binghua's slightly opened lips. It's unfortunate that you chose the battlefield in this narrow corridor. It was an extremely wrong decision. The smile that had been on Sumari's face disappeared, and she began to become serious. She turned her hands over and didn't know when 6 new daggers were caught between her fingers, and then they were thrown towards Binghua. Binghua didn't even move. The shield in front of him, which was matched with the Pajun armor, fell from the void and hit the ground a few meters away in front of him. Then it instantly unfolded into a nearly 2-meter tower shield defense posture, blocking the laser fire. 6 silver rays came. Sumari on the opposite side was not discouraged. If Binghua, who Wang hated so much, was killed so easily by him, then Binghua would have died in Wang's hands long ago, and she would not be allowed to live until now. The tower shield, which was silver in color as a whole, with jet black cutting lines on it, had 6 silver daggers stuck neatly on it. It fell backwards, revealing the ice flower that was thrust forward with the sword, and the speed was as fast as before. At the same time, what put Sumari in crisis was the red glimmer on the sword in Binghua's hand, and he happened to know what it meant. The best move among the female angels' attacks is the mixed energy attack technique called flame bombing. Sumari hurriedly dodged to one side. Because he had already received information that Binghua was good at speed, he had always paid attention to keeping a distance between him and Binghua to give himself time to dodge and react. In fact, this is not only a very prominent advantage of Binghua, but also a shortcoming that is difficult to be discovered by the enemy. In terms of speed, Binghua thought he was second in speed, and no angel in the angel civilization dared to claim to be first. But the price of increasing the speed is that it is difficult to control the direction during the thrust. After all, Binghua is not a god, and it is difficult to violate inertia, the mountain in the physical universe. Although you can use the thunder tactics to forcefully turn, the faster you turn, the greater the pressure you will have to endure. If you are not careful, even the strong body of a third-generation Haiwa warrior will most likely be pulled by a strong force and seriously injured. The figure wrapped in electric light jumped past Sumari. On the way, Binghua turned around fiercely and slashed backwards with the king's sword in his hand. The scorching red terrifying energy spurted out from the front of the 7-killing king's sword, sloping out like a waterfall. In just a moment, a 1-meter wide cut was drawn on the wall of the 180-degree fan-shaped area in front of Binghua, dripping with red high-temperature liquid. Mark. Then the flame bombardment energy that melted the wall lost its restraint, exploded with a bang, and intense fire and high temperature swept through the area. Binghua raised his left arm to block the incoming fire. At the same time, just in case, he gave the order to calculate the gravity field for the 7 Killing King sword, intending to limit Sumari's evasion ability. And what was Sumari doing at the moment? He was lying on the ground obediently. It was by this action that he escaped Binghua's turning attack. It's such a familiar way of applying energy, isn't this the energy manipulation technology Suri is best at? Sumari couldn't help but vomit loudly in her heart. The way Binghua used the flame bombardment in the form of sword energy was exactly the same as the dark energy used by Sumari's acquaintance Su Tiande. Although Sumari was not good at that kind of technology, she still had basic eyesight. What made him most angry was that the Binghua battle data provided by Suri was of no use at all. From the beginning to now, Binghua has basically used moves that are not included in the Rising Sun intelligence, except of course the recognized intelligence of being fast. Although she was angry, Sumari was not afraid to run away because of this. When the explosion sounded and the flames appeared, Sumari got up from the ground, took out her weapon, the cross sword, and rushed towards Binghua. His vision was filled with red light, and suddenly a sound of breaking through the air came from his side. Binghua raised his sword and made a horizontal movement. A tinkling sound. The surrounding air was squeezed and dispersed. Sumari held the sword with both hands and slashed at Binghua's king sword in front of her, forcing Binghua to take a step back. Binghua was about to use all her strength to fight back when she suddenly spotted several silvery cold lights appearing in the surrounding air out of the corner of her vision. The fatal crisis rushed towards her face, causing her dark pupils to shrink to the size of a needle in an instant. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 185. Those silver daggers were the silver daggers that Binghua used to fly away or dodge with lightning before. There were 10 of them. They were the daggers Sumari used to throw attacks before. At this moment, Binghua and Sumari collided with their weapons. At the critical moment, it shot out from the opened micro-wormhole, targeting Binghua's neck, back of head, back of heart, arms, legs, flanks, and chest. A smile of victory appeared on Sumari's face. With this move, he had deceived countless opponents. Except for the time when Liangbing was blocked by micro-wormhole technology, this move was always detrimental, and even if Binghua was lucky enough to survive, he still had follow-up measures. Although the fatal danger struck at a speed visible to the naked eye, Binghua was extremely calm and at the same time came up with a way to avoid all fatal injuries. There was a slight crisp sound, and Binghua's royal sword used to block Sumari suddenly split. The dispersed dagger did not choose to attack Sumari, but flew around the body, sticking to the ice-like pieces of armor. There are important harms on Hua. The tinkling sound of gold and iron sounded one after another, and several silver daggers were bounced away, but 2 daggers still penetrated Binghua's left arm and thigh. Suddenly, the silver armor on Binghua's body was stained with a dazzling bright red, but Binghua didn't make a sound, just stared at Sumari opposite him with murderous black and white eyes. Seeing that her sure kill move failed to kill Binghua, Sumari suddenly let go of the hilt of the sword with her right hand, and a silver dagger emerged from the wormhole. She grabbed it and lowered her body to stab it. Binghua's face and eyebrows. However, a brief sentence was passed into Sumari's ears at this time, and Binghua Sakura opened her lips and spoke softly. "You are dead." Before Sumari could understand why Binghua said these words, the terrifying gravity pressure suddenly spread. In order to extend the distance of the arm attack as much as possible, Sumari lowered her body and stabbed forward. The whole body can be said to be in a different kind of suspension. In addition, the battle with Binghua was in a narrow corridor in the celestial battleship, so she did not spread her wings. Sumari was severely pressed by the sudden emergence of the gravity field. The dagger in Sumari's hand was only 20 centimeters away from Binghua's eyebrows, but it was like an insurmountable gap. She heard a muffled bang and was pressed hard to the floor. Even Binghua was also affected by the gravity field. In order to restrain Sumari, the strength of the gravity field calculated by Binghua's Wang sword was not compromised at all. The dagger that had previously been suspended on the body could no longer maintain its suspended state and fell completely. Even Binghua himself was not immune. Chu Jian was half kneeling on the ground and almost fell to the ground. With Binghua and Sumari at the center, the air twisted and the floor within a radius of more than 10 meters sank and cracked simultaneously, as if it might collapse to the next floor at any time. Sumari moved her arms with difficulty to try to support her body. It didn't mean that she would lose her ability to move in the gravity field. In fact, both Binghua and Sumari can move in this kind of gravity, but their bodies need time to adapt to the sudden change in gravity. What's the use of doing this? When I adapt to the gravity field, you will still die, just sooner or later. Sumari had already stood up while speaking, which was in sharp contrast to Binghua, who was still half kneeling on the ground. But what puzzled Sumari was that Binghua's face, which was slightly obscured by her hanging black hair, was not afraid or unwilling, but instead had a smile of victory. Binghua tremblingly raised her right hand and stretched out a finger, indicating to Sumari to look at the top of her head. Sumari was startled and her eyes quickly moved up. The blade-like sharp edges of hundreds of exquisite silver feathers were pointed at his direction. Sumari raised her head like a signal, and the silver feathers fell down at the same time like a sloping silver feather curtain. Although it was beautiful, it was also full of murderous intent. Sumari quickly stepped to avoid it, but it was several times slower than usual. In the end, Sumari only had time to reach out and shout no to vent his fear of death. The silver feather that fell straight down was accelerated twice by the gravity field, and its power became even greater. The dense sound of sharp blades entering flesh sounded almost simultaneously, echoing in the corridor where only two angels existed at the moment. Binghua cancelled the gravity field and stood up with his sword on the ground. Looking at Sumari, whose body was covered with silver feathers and the ground under her feet was soaked with blood and was tied into a sieve, Binghua took a deep breath and said, "If you say you're dead, you're dead." After saying this, Binghua didn't give Sumari a chance to recover. He dragged the seven-killing king's sword forward and decisively struck the owl's head, then cut his body into several pieces. Finally, in order to prevent his body remains from being taken away by the male angel, he also struck with a fierce flame. The bombing shattered Sumari's body into ashes. Binghua's victory in the battle with Sumari had a lot to do with the information obtained from Liang Bing. First of all, there is information that Sumari can use micro-wormhole technology to carry the dagger out to attack unexpectedly, and then there is the information that her melee level is average. And according to the battle scenes dictated by Liang Bing, Sumari only used 12 daggers to attack at the most. Because of this, Binghua had already paid attention to the dagger thrown by Sumari. At the same time, he carried the silver feathers out from the beginning and spread them above his head during the battle, deliberately attracting Sumari's attention, making it unaware of the trap above its head. In the end, Sumari's micro-wormhole sneak attack actually gave Binghua a surprise, because it was not within the information provided by Liang Bing. In addition, Binghua was not as proficient in micro-wormhole transport technology as Liang Bing, so he almost fell into mortal crisis. Fortunately, in the end, he relied on a flash of inspiration to block the fatal injury at the expense of minor injuries. Then, relying on the gravity field prepared in advance, he made up for the last step against Sumari's trap and completed the final victory. It's so fierce. Liang Bing's expression was highly tense, and he didn't dare to look away from Suri for a moment, because Liang Bing was afraid that he would be split in half at the next moment. The word Sichuan appeared between Suri's brows, and the wings behind his back whipped forward fiercely. At the same time, he slashed with his giant sword, and a sword energy flew out. Liang Bing quickly dodged the flying sword energy to one side, but what he received was a head-on strike from Suri, who was following behind the sword energy. When there was a crisp sound, and a silver metal wing blocked Liang Bing's body, preventing her from being broken into two halves. "Sister, my space technology can't stop this guy, he's too reckless." Liang Bing did not forget to attack as he spoke. A micro-wormhole suddenly opened behind Suri, and a luxurious silver dagger stabbed Suri's back at extremely fast speeds. But Suri dodges the attack as if he had eyes on his back. Kesha, who was sitting on the throne not far away without taking a step away, had already used her hands to control the silver wings. I saw several silver blades flying in the air, forcing a high-level male angel into a corner. The next moment, several silver streams of light flew out of the wormhole that had been calculated in advance, killing a high-level male angel in a pincer attack. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 186. Compared to Liang Bing's anxiety and solemnity, Kesha's facial expression was much calmer. From the corner of her eye, she glanced at the position of her sister Liang Bing. Seeing that she could continue to support her for the time being, she focused most of her attention on the numbers ahead. Enter the high-ranking male angel who rushes over. However, Kesha did not use all the silver wings, secretly retaining one silver wing to support Liang Bing and defense. Two slender fingers moved together in the air, as if they were touching an invisible light screen. Kesha looked at the high-level angels in front of her who were constantly trying to get closer to her. She said something that made the enemy extremely angry. Remarks. You are doing useless work. You haven't learned well after a few times. The closer you are to me, the more flexible the silver wings will be, and the harder it will be for you to avoid them. The silver blade, like a dagger, formed a net of death in an area of 100 meters around Kesha, traveling wantonly through the micro-wormholes calculated in advance. 3 of the high-level male angels brought by Rising Sun had already lost their lives because they were testing the attack data of the silver blades around Kesha. Now the remaining 7 high-level male angels were all on alert to prevent being attacked by the sudden appearance of the silver blade. The blade cut off the head. However, the deaths of the 3 fallen high-level male angels were not worthless. Data such as the attack distance and flexibility of Kesha's silver blade were generally successfully collected by the male angels present. Although the speed of the silver blade beyond the limit of 100 meters is very fast, it can only carry out rigid straight-line attacks, and can only open up to 2 micro-wormholes at the same time. Within 100 meters, Kesha can open 4 micro-wormholes at the same time, carry silver blades from 4 directions at the same time to attack, and then advance by 1 level every 20 meters. 40 meters seems to be another limit. Within 40 meters, Kesha can not only open 12 micro-wormholes at the same time, but also control the silver blade to combine and transform. In other words, no matter how close any angel is within 40 meters of Kesha, he will always face 3-dimensional attacks from 12 directions. This is the powerful combat ability Kesha gained at the cost of being unable to leave the cross golden throne beneath her. In this state, Kesha once single-handedly killed the heavenly King Huasiang on the battlefield. Although Kesha faced 10 male angels of the same level this time, she still did not fall behind. After all, Kesha's record was now 0-3. Not far from Liang Bing and Kesha, He-11 was fighting with 2 male angels with a broad-bladed sword in one hand. It was obvious that 2 male angels were besieging Hexi, but Hexi's response felt a bit casual, giving the 2 male angels who were fighting her a sense of being out of shape. In fact, this is exactly the case. Hexi is currently distracted, maintaining the shielding of dark communications while fighting. Otherwise, with her technical level, she would have killed the 2 male angels who besieged her. How long do you have until Binghua arrives? Liang Bing probably won't be able to hold on for long. If Suri frees his hands, Kesha won't have time to deal with those high-level male angels. Hexi said in the communication, sideways dodging the cross swords that were slashed at each other, and at the same time flipping the big sword in his hand, he knocked back a high-level male angel with a backhand swing. In fact, He-11 had carefully calculated every step of the two high-level male angels' fighting movements, and designed several dodge plans at the same time. Otherwise, they would not have been able to dodge so easily. This is Hexi's fighting method. Unlike Binghua's fighting method that relies on experience and instant reaction, Hexi relies more on calculations from data. At this moment, Binghua, who was communicating with He-11, had arrived several kilometers away from the battlefield, and specifically found a metal debris floating here as a bunker. Hexi, I'm already here. Provide the direction. I will prepare the flame bombing in advance and then launch it at the final speed. Binghua still had some undried blood on her body. After killing Sumari, she received a message from Hexi, so she rushed over immediately without caring about the wound. As for why he was so anxious, it was because of the huge amount of information contained in Hexi's words. Suri led 12 high-ranking male angels to behead Kesha, but he did not expect that Kesha would be accompanied by He-11 and Liang Bing. In addition, Kesha's combat effectiveness exceeded Hui Group's expectations, causing the beheading operation to fail, and Suri was dragged there by Liang Bing instead. So Kesha and Hexi secretly planned to keep Huaye's General Suri here and cut off Huaye's arm. So during the battle, Hexi deliberately lowered his presence, launched a dark communication shielding area, and contacted Binghua, who was now outside. As for the plan, it is very simple. It is difficult for a generation of gods to be killed by conventional means, so Binghua launches a flame bombing in the dark for sniping, and Liang Bing restricts the movement of rising sun to prevent it from escaping. The 7 Killing King sword floated in front of Binghua, and the scorching red light representing the flame bombardment lit up on the silver sword body. At the same time, a blue electric arc flashed around Binghua, forming a structure similar to an accelerating electric circle at the front of the 7 Killing King's sword. Binghua plans to use the simplest and most familiar electromagnetic acceleration to launch Wang's sword. As for the attenuation of speed, there is no need to worry about it, because Hexi has calculated a relatively stable micro-wormhole in advance and uses his own position-guided attack. On the other side, after Hexi disconnected communication with Binghua, his attention finally returned to the battlefield where he was. After once again dodging the attacks of the two male angels at a slight angle, He-11 suddenly flapped his wings and retreated quickly, with a sharp look in his blue eyes like the starry sky. Opening his left palm and raising it in front of him, the two male angels rushing towards him suddenly found that their speed was getting slower and slower, and an unusually heavy pressure was exerted on their bodies. What is this? The two male angels struggled hard, but the space itself had no entity, so how could they break free? However, He-11 was kind enough to explain the principle to them. Although I can't directly confine the space around you like Liang Bing, I can temporarily increase the density of the space to affect your speed. As He-11 spoke, the corners of his mouth raised slightly, he held the handle of the engraved sword with both hands, and rushed forward. The moment He-11 rushed over, the two male angels felt that the weight on their bodies was lifted immediately. But to their despair, the big sword in He-11's hand had already slashed across them. The vertical silver light disappeared fleetingly, and He-11 had already arrived behind the two male angels in the blink of an eye. After doing this, He-11 didn't even look back, and flew directly to Liang Bing's location, contacting Liang Bing at the same time. Liang Bing, after 5 seconds, do your best to restrain Suri. Before Liang Bing could unfold the space prison device that he had brought out, it was easily cut into 2 pieces by Suri with a sword. Hearing this, he was stunned and almost had one of his arms removed by Suri. Hexi, what do you mean? Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 187. Hexi jumped over Liangbing, who was retreating, and struck Suri vertically with the big sword in his hand, but was easily blocked by Liangbing's horizontal sword. I know you, the silver-haired female angel, you often prevented the king from doing good things when you were at Marrow Academy. Suri recognized He-11 and spoke for the first time in the battle. At the same time, he easily shook away He-11's sword, and then struck He-11's chest with a diagonal slash of the sword, showing no mercy. An extremely heavy feeling came from the sword body. He-11 finally blocked Suri's sword, although it was a little reluctant. It's really an honor to be remembered by you as Huaye's right-hand man. But this may be the last time we meet. Liangbing was not far away calculating the required data for spatial confinement. He-11's words just now echoed in his mind. Although he didn't know what He-11 was planning, now was not the time to get to the bottom of it. After saying that, He-11 sent a signal to Binghua. On the other side, after Binghua received He-11's signal, he pushed his palm forward without any hesitation. The 7 Killing King sword, glowing with a faint burning red light, shot out instantly and rushed into the wormhole after electromagnetic acceleration. On the other side, after sending the signal to Binghua, Hexi shouted to Liangbing in the communication, "It's now." Then without any hesitation, he flapped his wings on his back and fell downwards. Just when Suri was about to stab the unsuspecting He-11 in the head, the spatial confinement from Liangbing arrived. Just for an instant, the space within a 1-meter radius with the rising sun as the center condensed, as if a completely transparent glass tightly wrapped the rising sun in it. Kesha, who was not far away, also turned her attention. She raised her left palm as if ready to clench it at any time. The space above the rising sun became blurred, and a silver glow appeared faintly. But in less than a second, dense cracks appeared in the condensed space, which was obviously unable to trap Suri. This was the reason why Liangbing was in such an awkward situation before being chased and chopped by Suri. After all, space confinement is just a technique that increases the density of space around the target to restrain the enemy. If the trapped target struggles too hard, the shorter the time this space confinement will last. At first glance, Suri appears to be the type with extremely strong frontal combat effectiveness. He is also a super warrior with a divine body. Liangbing can control him for only 1 second, which is not a short time. Finally, the space filled with tiny cracks suddenly shattered, with no fragments flying, and no gorgeous pictures appeared. The condensed space disappeared and returned to normal. However, a scorching red light like a shooting star has already arrived in front of the rising sun, approaching like a crimson wave. Suri's pupils followed closely and he could do nothing but this. In fact, from the moment he saw Binghua's 7 Killing King sword in his sight, he had no chance to dodge. Unless Suri could delay time, he would have no choice but to eat this hit. G. However, as a warrior who can stand out in the battle with the Foreign King Alliance, Suri will never give up hope of survival. Since it is too late to put away his sword and block with his sword, he must minimize the probability of being fatally injured. The thick cross-like hilt was lifted upward by Suri at the last moment, just in time to reach the tip of the 7 Killing King sword, slightly changing its trajectory. The scorching red light penetrated Suri's body and wings at once, bringing up a bunch of blooming blood flowers and shooting straight forward. Chance. Kesha's eyes lit up as she focused her attention here. She raised her left palm and clenched it tightly. The silver wings that had been waiting in the wormhole suddenly flew out and landed directly on Suri's head. Suri was seriously injured at this moment, one of his arms was missing, and even one of his wings was missing. An unprecedented weakness hit his heart. He looked at the flying silver wings but had no energy left to avoid them. Just when Suri thought he was done, and all the eyes of the audience were focused on Suri, a young high-level male angel who followed Suri to perform the beheading operation flew around and knocked Suri away, but he was penetrated by Kesha's silver wings. Chest. Suri's calm expression changed even though he was seriously injured. It was obvious that the male angel who knocked him away had a high status in his heart and he should be familiar with him. But Suri, who was knocked away by the huge force, had no ability to save the high-level male angel. He could only flip and float farther and farther in the universe. Kesha had no intention of showing mercy. With a thought, she pierced the silver wings in the body of the high-ranking male angel and suddenly separated them to dismember him. The battlefield is such a cruel place. No matter what your identity or existence is, as long as you fall into the hands of the enemy will never show any mercy. This sudden and shocking scene caused a huge change in the situation on the battlefield. The high-ranking male angels besieging Kesha immediately dropped her target and flew towards the rising sun at high speed. Kesha, Hexi, and Liangbing also reacted immediately and rushed over at the same time. Kesha left her throne for the first time since the battle began and drew out her royal sword. When Binghua saw this scene, she didn't rush over immediately because the distance was too far. By the time she got close, the daylily would probably be cold. Binghua chose the direction where Suri was most likely to leave if he escaped the encirclement of Kesha and other angels, and it was also the direction closest to the main force of Hui group. Condensed blood-colored ice crystals were floating randomly among the surrounding male angel corpses. Binghua sat there, her right hand resting on the handle of the flaming sword that had pierced the metal debris at her feet. She is the only female angel in this area. Binghua's escorts are stationed several kilometers away from here to prevent Suri from breaking out. The corpses of male angels under her feet and around her, according to Binghua's inference, should be coming to help. Praetorian guardsmen of the rising sun. Binghua didn't do anything after leaving Kesha's position. Instead, he mobilized a guarding angel and guarding legion on standby to intercept him. During this period, they unexpectedly encountered a group of hundreds of elite male angels. After a big battle broke out between the two sides, Binghua's side finally succeeded in annihilating this group of male angels. After cleaning the battlefield and taking away the body of the female angel who had died on his side, Binghua retreated from his escort army and waited here alone. According to the information received from Kesha, Suri succeeded in escaping from her, He-11, and Liangbing's pursuit at the cost of the lives of 5 high-ranking male angels. As for the direction of travel, there is no surprise that it is the direction of Binghua, because only here Suri can return to Huaye's army the fastest. Binghua is waiting. She has always had one regret, that is, she was unable to avenge Ella, the previous commander of the Sky Sword Legion. Although Ella did not fall into the hands of Suri, it was directly related. At that time, Binghua was defeated by Suri with just one blow. Now that she finally has the strength, she naturally hopes to avenge Ella. In fact, Binghua had already recognized Suri during the last battle, but Suri escaped midway, which made Binghua, who was about to use all his abilities, extremely uncomfortable. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 188. Queen, the defense line we set up has come into contact with the escaping rising sun, who is trying to break through the Guard Corps' defense line. Binghua, who was just thinking about whether rising sun would come, raised his head and asked the female angel who made the report in the communication channel. In that direction. Queen, at position 256-785. After figuring out Suri's current location, Binghua no longer planned to wait here any longer. He pulled out the flaming sword in front of him and spread his wings to fly away from the metal debris. By the time Hyuka arrived, the battle was nearing its end. Rising Sun, who had been extremely powerful in the past, was less than 3/10 of its usual strength after escaping the pursuit of Kesha and other angels while seriously injured. Now that he encountered Binghua's elite guard regiment, the outcome was already doomed. Suri himself also knew that he could not escape from this encirclement, and he had been fighting back hard, completely giving up the defense. More than 10 female angels guarding the legion had died under his sword. However, the number of female angels besieging him continued to increase as time went on, from the first 10 to 20 to 40 and now to 400. Such a large number of female angel warriors surrounded Suri, who had lost an arm, and attacked continuously. When Binghua saw Suri for the first time, Suri had reached its limit and looked extremely miserable. There were several flaming swords stuck on his back and chest. The golden short ear-length hair was soaked with blood and condensed together. One eye was closed due to the blood flowing from the wound on his forehead. On the empty left shoulder, you can still see the burning light of the wound on the broken arm trying to heal the wound, but it is uncertain. The appearance shows that its energy is insufficient. Binghua sighed, and it seemed that he had no chance to avenge Ella. In the end, Suri was besieged to death by the female angels whose eyes were red because their companions were killed. Suri, the owner of a divine body, died in this way under the siege of more than 400 elite female angels. This result still made Binghua feel sad. Although Suri and Sumari died in battle, and Huaye's two most valued generals fell, this actually had little impact on the battle situation. Millions of legions are fighting against each other. Although the strength of individuals can change the advantages and disadvantages of local battlefields, it is difficult to have much impact on the battle situation itself. The melee between the male and female angels lasted for several days before it stopped. The reason for the stop was also very practical, because both sides needed to repair themselves. Both Huaya and the soldiers of the female angel group were very tired. If the fight continued, both sides would suffer losses, so both sides involuntarily withdrew their troops at the same time, confronting each other at a distance that could be neither close nor far apart. In this battle, the female angels' losses were even heavier than the last time. The total number of sacrificed soldiers was more than 700,000, and 7 Skyblade battleships were damaged. The casualties on Huaye's side are unknown, but they are definitely higher than those on the female angel side, because the two sides have fundamentally different goals for the war. Female angels can sacrifice themselves for victory, because they are fighting for their own future. The male angels were different. They obeyed Huaye because of his title as King of Angels, and thus started this war with the female angels. As the number of casualties increased, other voices gradually appeared in Huaye's army. It was still unknown whether there were angels adding fuel to the fire, but one thing Binghua knew was that Huaye's military morale began to become unstable. Okay, this is my current analysis of the war situation. Does any of you have any good ideas to break this deadlock? If we continue to face this head-on, our casualties will rise in a straight line. Kesha looked sad. This was the first time she had shown this look in front of Binghua. Sister, this guy Huaye has been defending and can't find a breakthrough point at all. I can't think of anything else but a strong attack. Liang Bing took a look at Kesha's analysis data and racked his brains but couldn't think of any method. Kesha should let her head calm down first. In a hurry, Huaye won't be stupid and let us find an opportunity. Hexi looked at Kesha's sad expression and comforted her. Hexi had recently stopped cracking the god-making project due to the war. But looking at the current battle situation, He-11 once again had the idea of completing the decryption of the super gene of the first-generation divine body as soon as possible. Binghua had an idea, but before the conditions were met, he didn't say anything to dampen the mood, and the meeting ended like this. After Bing K and He-11 left, Liang Bing stayed alone to find his sister Kesha. Elder sister. Kesha, who was sitting on the throne and thinking hard about how to defeat the enemy, opened her eyes and looked at Liang Bing after hearing this. What's the matter, Liang Bing, haven't you left yet? Liang Bing pursed his lips and told the reason why he stayed. Sister, I have made great progress in the research of space technology recently. I discovered that space technology can be fused with the super genes of super soldiers to form a special super gene model. This new supergene model has strong compatibility with space technology and can greatly simplify the calculation time of space algorithms. I call this new type of supergene a space gene. Sister, I want to pool the resources of Skyblade and the Apocalypse Legion to develop the supergene and strive to create a super soldier with space genes. Sister, I've even thought of a name for this project. It's called the Space Gene God Creation Project. Liang Bing's tone was eager when he spoke, and his eyes lit up, filled with an inexplicable desire. After hearing this, Kesha just rubbed her eyebrows, exhaled a sigh of relief, and answered. Liang Bing, I cannot agree with your idea. Now is a tense war period, and it is impossible for me to concentrate resources on the space gene research you mentioned. Moreover, Liang Bing, important resources should not be concentrated on the development of expensive god-making projects, but should be used to strengthen the overall strength of our female angels' supergenes. Today, the supergenes of our female angels are generally of the first generation, and only a few have evolved to the second generation level, like you and me, and there are less than 25 of the millions of female angels. So Liang Bing, you'd better give up this idea as soon as possible. Liang Bing's back was very lonely when she left. It was rare for her to be so energetic as she was always so energetic. Kesha, who was sitting on the throne, hesitated to speak several times, but in the end she didn't say anything. Kesha thought about discussing space genes with Liang Bing after the Angel Nebula settled down and the female angel defeated Hui group. After that, Kesha concentrated on the battle with Huaya and put all this behind her for the time being. Liang Bing returned to the Apocalypse Legion and opened the book-like diary in his hand in his own room to record this. I explained my idea to my sister today. The concept of combining space ability and supergenes must be extraordinarily powerful. But my sister rejected my request to pool resources to develop space genes on the grounds that resources should be equally distributed to strengthen all female angel genes. I felt a little uncomfortable because my sister rejected my request for the first time in her life. She had never done this before. However, I still think that space genes will become mainstream in the future and will always adhere to this concept. My sister will definitely change her mind in the future. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 189. A Skyblade battleship that was used as a temporary royal court had undergone certain environmental optimization and transformation. In addition to the holy and majestic white gold palace, the ground was covered with a layer of green lawn, in which special transplanted and cultivated grasses were also planted. And maintained by the superb technology of the angel civilization, this small area has formed a small ecological circle, inhabited by a small number of small creatures. Binghua, I saw in the previous meeting that you were hesitant to speak. Is there something inconvenient you want to say on the spot? He 11 and Binghua were sitting next to each other on the lawn. Since they were not in a public place and the various legions were resting, the two women were wearing normal casual clothes at the moment. No, it's nothing. I just have an idea, but it's unlikely to be implemented. In order not to disappoint you, I didn't say it out loud. As Binghua answered Hexi, she stretched out her fingers to tease a bird with pale silver feathers, red eyes, and a white beak that stood on her forearm. This unusually noble-looking bird has no name. It is just a rare species that Binghua accidentally discovered on a life planet in the Mir galaxy. Because he saw it was very beautiful, he caught it and raised it on Tianren. Although Binghua took it away from his home, he also freed it from the troubles of natural enemies and allowed it to live freely in the small forest on Tianren. This can be regarded as an equivalent exchange. Now, after getting along for a short period of time, this flying bird is very close to Binghua, letting Binghua tease and caress its smooth and soft feathers. He 11 on the side also found it interesting and stretched out his fingers to touch this beautiful looking silver bird. But as if the silver bird sensed something, it flapped its wings and flew away from Binghua's forearm. He 11's hand stretched out into the air froze awkwardly, then he drew it back and spoke calmly. This bird flies pretty fast. Binghua couldn't help but chuckle when he saw Hexi like this. It's quite obedient in my hands, but it's very accommodating. Even Ran, who comes here often, doesn't want to touch it. Okay, all joking aside, Hexi, do you have any opinion on the current battle situation? Do you think we can win? Binghua smiled and his expression returned to normal, and he asked about topics related to the war that would determine the future fate of the female angel. After he 11 was silent for 2 seconds, he looked up at the blue sky simulated by the sky blade above his head and gave Binghua a very surprised answer. If the outcome of this war is determined by data comparison, our winning rate is less than 50%. Binghua shook his head slightly when he heard this. Sometimes data cannot explain everything. According to data comparison, if I faced a super warrior like Suri alone, my winning rate would be less than 10%. But in reality, I have the strength to fight him, and I am even very confident of defeating a warrior of Suri's level. Hexi actually agreed with what Binghua said, but as a scientific research officer, Hexi was used to using data to analyze everything. I know this myself. I can still tell the difference between reality and simulation. Actually, if the method I thought of before can succeed, it will almost completely defeat the current Hui group. However, it is a pity that a very important prerequisite is missing. He 11 couldn't help but ask. What conditions? Binghua was silent for a while, then looked at Hexi's blue eyes and spoke extremely seriously. The female generation divine body promotion technology, only in this way can I be sure to lead the team into Huaye's Tiangong ship and implement the beheading plan. As long as Huaye dies, the order of the heavenly palace will be destroyed, and Huaye's army will naturally fall apart. By then, we will directly win the final victory. Meeting Binghua's gaze, Hexi felt that Binghua's appearance at the moment was a little different from the Binghua in his memory who had always called him Sister Hexi. At this moment, Binghua is no longer her close sister, but the angel king who stands at the same level as herself, and the king of Sky Sword who is making a condition to King Tianji. I understand, King of Heavenly Sword, you will get what you want, I guarantee it with the reputation of King of Heavenly Sword. Hexi's answer was extremely serious, and it contained a hint of decisiveness. Seeing Hexi's serious look, Binghua couldn't help but laugh, breaking the serious atmosphere. Sister Hexi, your serious look is really rare. Hexi could no longer maintain the expression on his face, and a faint smile appeared. Isn't this just to cooperate with you? As for whether he 11 showed the previous attitude in order to cooperate with Binghua, the two women knew it in their hearts. After Binghua chatted with Hexi for a while, Hexi finally got up and planned to leave. We've talked for long enough. It's time for me to go back and do what King Tianji should do. After saying that, Hexi spread his wings and flew away without giving Binghua a chance to talk to him. Binghua sat on the lawn without getting up to say goodbye. She just stared at Hexi's leaving figure. After a long time, she got up and patted the hem of her clothes under her body. She walked towards the temporary Heavenly Sword King's court. Only a part of Binghua's poem echoed in the air. Talk to yourself. Then I can't be idle anymore. It's time to go do the unfinished business of the Heavenly Sword King. From that day on, he 11 began to stay in the laboratory and focus on the development of the genetic code for the female angelic body. Binghua also stayed in his royal court and began to perfect his follow-up system for the 7 Killing King's sword. Currently, among the functions of the 7 Killing King's sword, only the number 1 sword, codenamed Chu 11, is capable of flame bombardment, star energy distance and the number 2 sword's gravitational drive to cover the sky. The gravity field technology is relatively mature. The subsequent sword number 3, codenamed Thunder, is equipped with Thunder Drive technology. Sword number 4, codenamed Million, is equipped with Micro Wormhole Shuttle technology, and sword number 5, codenamed Phantom, is equipped with Reality Virtual Projection technology. Sword number 6, codenamed Jianyi, is equipped with Synchronized Attack Array technology and Dark Energy High Frequency Cutting technology equipped with the main sword Tianming. Because it didn't take long to complete the 7 kills King Sword, and there were incidents one after another during this period, Binghua never completed the follow-up improvement of the 7 kills. This is why Binghua did not use other swords on the battlefield. As reason. After decades of fighting, Binghua discovered one thing. Simply casting armor and weapons with special shapes were of little use in high-end battlefields. Because the super warriors who have reached this point are all strong men who have experienced hundreds of battles, and they can quickly figure out the attack patterns of heavy swords and guns such as the Red Abyss sword in Binghua's hands. So Binghua began to slowly turn his attention to the versatility of weapons, and the 7 killing King sword was Binghua's first piece and the one for which he had the greatest expectations. On the other side, Binghua and Hexi's silence did not have much impact on the subsequent war between the female angel and the male angel. Kesha took over all the command power on the battlefield. Although she didn't know what Hexi and Binghua were doing and frequently missed combat meetings, asking representatives of the left-wing guard to come every time, Kesha believed that the two women were definitely important. Things get busy. Because of the deaths of Suri and Sumari and the casualties of a large number of high-level male angels, Huaya no longer sent high-level combat forces to form a sharp knife squad, but only used ordinary angels to carry out the main attack. Kesha was eager for this. The female angels, who lacked high-end combat power, were simply unable to engage in a small-scale high-level annihilation battle with the Hui group. Only the collision of large armies was in line with the numerical advantage occupied by the female angels. In addition, I would like to thank Zhaihe's Haibai for the 10,000 rewards and all book friends for their tips. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 190. A long tug of war that lasted for several months began. Kesha and Huaya were like gamblers who lost their hearts at the gambling table, and the soldiers under their command were the chips in their hands. At this moment, precious lives in the past became a series of cold numbers on the daily casualty report. The morale of the originally high-spirited female angels began to decline under the blow of the continuous war and huge casualties, not to mention the male angels opposite. There is no comfortable living environment here, and there are no female angels for them to play with, only the group of tough female angels opposite who come to find trouble with swords every day. The daily life of the lower-level soldiers on both sides is to rest. After hearing orders, they pick up their weapons and rush to the battlefield. If you are lucky enough not to die in battle, you can drag your injured and exhausted body back to Skyblade and rest base, pick up the things left behind by your sacrificed companions, get acquainted with the sisters who have just joined the team, or merge into another team yourself. Originally, in the early days of this war, during the rest time after the battle, young female angel warriors could often be seen chatting with each other on the Skyblade. But now, except for the routine patrol team on the Skyblade, those beautiful figures of the past can no longer be seen on those empty combat platforms and the wings of the Skyblade. Although the appearance of these scenes damaged the morale of ordinary female angels, they could not shake Kesha's desire to win the war in the raging sea galaxy. For a decision-maker, Kesha is undoubtedly qualified. Although she will feel sad for the casualties of her soldiers, she will never cry, let alone regret the decision she made. Kesha was sitting on the throne belonging to the Heavenly Blade King, as if she could not see the huge number of casualties, issuing offensive or defensive orders to each front. Behind the female angel front, the long-dormant Heavenly Sword Royal Court and Tianji Royal Court finally saw changes. Tianji King Hexi took the lead in walking out of the laboratory where he had been living for several months, and rushed to Binghua's place with a tired look on his face. Temporary Heavenly Sword Royal Court. A sound of footsteps sounded at the entrance of the temporary Heavenly Sword King's Court, which was bright, tended to have a holy atmosphere, and was mainly decorated with white carved walls and some golden stripes, breaking the previous silence here. Binghua, who was sitting on the silver throne in front of a relief of a suspended sword in the background, heard the sound and stopped programming the instructions for the 7 killing king's sword, and raised his head to look at the person coming. Hexi was stopped on the walkway outside the royal court hall by 2 guardian angels. The guardian angels spoke to Hexi. The queen has ordered that if there is no urgent matter, please do not disturb us. A guardian angel stretched out his right arm and stopped in front of He-11 with a very polite tone. As Binghua's guardian angels, of course they knew the relationship between He-11 and the queen, but the queen's order was an order, and they would not let go without the queen's consent. Other angels entering the royal court undermine their duties as guardian angels. He-11 did not force her way in, because through the tall door, she could already see 7 silver swords suspended in the void in front of Binghua sitting on the throne, forming a broad-blade giant sword. It was none other than Binghua's king. 7 kills with the sword. Angel Shuang, Angel Cloud, please step aside first. I have something important to discuss with King Tianji. The 2 guarding angels on guard looked at each other after hearing the queen's words. Angel Shuang put down the arm that was blocking He-11 and Angel Yun saluted in the direction of Binghua and said in unison, "Yes, Queen." Then the 2 women left the royal court gate together. He-11 then stepped into the royal hall and joked with Binghua with a smile. "I haven't seen you for a while. You, the king of angels, are really putting on a big show." Binghua also stood up and left the throne and walked down the steps to meet He-11 who was approaching. At the same time, she asked a question with a hint of expectation in her tone. "Sister Hexi, come to me and let me guess whether it was successful." Hexi came to stand in front of Binghua, took a deep breath, and then smiled and answered Binghua. "What, don't you believe in your sister Hexi's ability?" Fortunately, the technology of the first-generation divine body has successfully completed the exclusive model of the female angel. Binghua's face lit up with joy. Although she was mentally prepared, she still felt a sense of surprise. Afterwards, Binghua and Hexi did not hesitate to contact Kesha and Liangbing directly. The 4 girls separated from the other angels and gathered in Hexi's research room. He-11, is what you said on the phone true? We already have a genetic model of the divine body that is unique to female angels. Kesha went straight to the issue she was most concerned about as soon as she appeared. Hexi just nodded slightly, which made Kesha feel extremely excited. The same goes for Liangbing. The female angel has always lagged behind the male angel in terms of high-end super warrior technology, but now she has finally caught up. But Binghua didn't have any obvious mood swings because he got the news first. Next, Binghua did not hesitate to repeat the beheading plan she had discussed with Hexi last time to Kesha and Liangbing, because this plan required the assistance and help of the 2 women. It's too risky for Binghua to do this. There are nearly 20,000 guards stationed on Huaye's Tiangong. If you rush in with the angels, you won't be able to escape if you are surrounded. Kesha rejected Binghua's plan on the spot, and Liangbing did the same. Sister is right. Even if you, Binghua, are surrounded by so many second-generation warriors, you will only be surrounded to death. You have no chance to successfully behead Huaye, so I don't agree with your plan. Binghua's heart warmed when she heard Kesha and Liangbing's objections, but she had already made a decision in her heart and had a relatively complete plan. Don't worry, I didn't say I would go alone. This plan needs your help. Keisha's eyebrows were still furrowed. Even so, the risk is still too great. Binghua, I recognize your melee strength, but in terms of flexibility, you are not as flexible as Liangbing. There is no chance of getting past the Imperial Guards and approaching Huaye. Binghua did not answer Kesha directly, but took a few steps forward to bring up a projection. The projection showed images of female angels rushing towards Huaye's army. In the picture, countless female angels rush towards the enemy, and the male angels also attack. During the collision, the weapons in their hands are slashing at each other. In the picture, the female angel who had just killed a male angel a moment ago had no time to draw her weapon, and was stabbed through the body by the oncoming war spear. After the charging male and female angels passed by each other, in the area sandwiched between the male and female angels, countless condensed blood ice crystals and male and female angels floated quietly like sculptures. The scene was extremely bloody and tragic. Did you see it? This is like a hellish scene. Binghua turned around and looked at Kesha and Liang Bing. Compared with them who fought bloody battles, the risks I took were not risks at all. Coupled with the power of the first-generation divine body, the success rate of this plan is more than 50% in my mind.